Alright, so you've seen us do the stereo install, and we went ahead and we did the deadening in the vehicle in the trunk. And now we're going to go ahead and prep the trunk for the actual system itself. First thing we're going to do is work on this this panel that the speaker box is going to sit on. So it comes with like a 1/4 inch thick masonite board, which is not really ideal to screw something down to. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a secondary board to that, and then redo the carpeting for it. And then we're going to go ahead and change the battery out. Excess Power was gracious enough to get us a battery. We'll talk more about that here in a second. So it's going to be floor, then battery, and then maybe do some wiring at the same time.
Run the RCAs too, because right now they're just kind of sitting on the floor.
Yeah, we might run the RCAs today, depending on timing today. It depends on, we'll determine what we can get done today. May even run some speaker wires if we can get that done too. So hop on board. Boom. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling off this sound absorbent material, or just padding, I guess you can call it, so I can get to the wood beneath. That way I can use this as a template to trace on the new piece of wood we have. I do plan on reusing this piece here, so I'm trying to not disturb it too much while I remove it from the board. Alright, so what Donnie's doing is he's going to trace where the carpet is on that board, so we can take the board off, matched up to our new one, and then when it comes time to put the carpet back on, we know exactly where the carpet lies on the piece of board. We just need a line, essentially, just to kind of show us. Now, let me show you guys what we're doing here. Essentially, so this is the back of the vehicle. This is the back of the trunk, the front of the trunk, so to speak. And the enclosure is going to sit here towards the back of the trunk. This is the front of the trunk. Whatever. The enclosure sits here.
Back of the trunk.
Yeah. The battery and stuff. The battery is right underneath of this, and the spare tire kind of sits in the center here. Now, what we're going to do is this board and the new board that we're going to lay on with it, we're going to cut both of them so that you can get to these items without having to remove the enclosure. That way, and basically the carpet is going to act like a hinge, so to speak. This is going to be glued back on.
I was just about to ask that if we would need to put rivets on it.
You know, if we were using some thicker wood, and if we were doing like a really big setup,
Yeah.
and we weren't doing a budget setup, then I would say sure, we could go ahead and do a hinge. We're gonna test fit it first. If we feel we need a hinge, we'll go ahead and use a hinge. But
It's gonna collapse.
Right.
System ruined.
So essentially, what we're gonna do is we're using the carpet itself as a hinge. The enclosure is sitting here. It's gonna keep everything stable, and this is gonna come up like that. So what we're doing is the reason why we're adding the wood. I don't even think I got to that part yet. This is 1/4 inch masonite board they put underneath it here, and it's for a factory and just to have some stuff in your trunk is no big deal. But when you add a system, you have to have stability, and you have to have something that your enclosure can screw down to, because we're going to use some brackets to hold everything in place. In order to do that, you can't just use the super thin wood that comes with the factory location. So we're going to add to it. You know, we've got some quarter-inch plywood. It's actually a good finish wood. It's real thick. It's real dense, and it'll work perfect for a situation that's not. We don't need to use 3/4-inch board for what we're doing. If you got a bigger setup, if you had more amps, more this, more that, you may want to use some 3/4-inch board instead of the 1/4-inch. Or actually, in most cases, you would end up wanting to do what's called a false floor, where you kind of build your floor up and set everything inside. And for your setup, this is a budget build. We don't have to do all that, but we just want to make sure the enclosure doesn't move anywhere. And we want to make sure we can get to the spare tire and the battery that's sitting underneath it without any issue. And that's what we're going to do today.
Sweet. Alright, so now we've got our trace, and we're going to go ahead and use a jigsaw. We don't really need to do anything, we don't have to. I mean, if you wanted to be super smooth about things, you can go ahead and use a router table and all that jazz. This doesn't have to be precise. So I said jazz, yeah. We're going to go ahead and just use a jigsaw, cut this bad boy out, and that should be more than fine. So we just line this up to make sure it's lined up decent. There was these little holes right here. Honestly, didn't see anything in the car that this was for, so I'm just gonna leave that out for now. This hole's not needed. And so we're gonna move this out of the way real quick. And then we'll make sure our surface is good, nice and clean. We're gonna add a bunch of glue to this, and then we're gonna go ahead and spread that glue finely across the whole thing. And we're gonna set our board on top, and we're gonna clamp it and add some weight. So there's many different ways to do this. It all depends on your clamping situation. This is what we have to work with today. Some of you might have something like this. You know, these work pretty well, but we don't have any of these, and can't get to the center on these anyway. So, like I said, we're going to use these clamps all the way around it. Then we're going to add some weight to the center. And we're using just a good wood. This is a little overkill. This is a Tight Bond Quick and Thick multi-surface, 2 times faster, 2 times thicker. So this stuff does work. You can literally use Elmer's glue for what we're doing here. So. now, the table's kind of in the way for us to put clamps over here. So I went ahead and clamped it there, over here, and we just have weights pretty much sitting down, applying even pressure across the whole board. We're gonna let this sit. Once it dries, then we can go ahead and make our cut down the center. That way it's an even cut down the center. So for now, we're gonna let this dry and go work on something else.
All right, so we went ahead and we fit this board in where we know it sits in the vehicle. And we're gonna go ahead and draw a line that's gonna give us our cut so it has a hinge on it essentially. But before we do that, we want to put the enclosure in to make sure that the enclosure doesn't mess with our cut. We want to make sure that the box sits behind that. So let's go ahead and put that enclosure in first. So the enclosure is pretty much going to sit like right on our line too. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab this board, put it in here, like that. And
oh yeah, dude, got plenty of room.
marker, here we go. Got our marker, and this is going to mark off where we're going to cut this board at.
Okay, even up just a little bit.
I'm going to go right with this line.
Also, we are going to go quite a bit.
Yep, so that line right there is where we're going to cut this board in half. That way we can make a hinge out of it. That way you can still get to the spare tire and everything. Now this enclosure, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But anyway, we're going to get this floor done. That way we can move on in the system. All right, so originally we were thinking about having the enclosure on center, because that just looks more symmetrical. And we were going to have the amp screwed into the back seat with a board. But after further looking into it, if we want to put the amp in the back, then we'll have to bring the enclosure forward more, which then will pass our line. And if we move our line anymore, then it's going to be harder for Donnie to get to his spare tire and all the tools that are down in there. So we want to keep this line where it is, and in order for it to do that, we're going to go ahead and move the enclosure all the way to the right, and then we're going to build our amp rack over here on the side of it, because the amp's not big, it'll fit on the side. We'll maybe put it on an angle and make it look pretty or whatever. And then we also are able to do our, what are they called? Brackets. We can put our brackets to hold the enclosure in place. We'll do 2 brackets on the left-hand side, and we're going to run a screw down the center inside the enclosure to hold it to the board as well. That way the enclosure doesn't move. But we kind of wanted to lay this out before we start carpeting. So we're going to run to the hardware store. We're going to grab a piano hinge that will work really well with this this board. That way so my thought was we could just have the carpet work as a hinge, but after talking with Donnie, he feels more comfortable using a hinge. And honestly, I feel better anyway doing that, because if you let the carpet be used as a hinge, over time it will loosen up on the carpet, and then it'll look weird. So we're going to use a hinge, probably like a 10 or 12 inch piano hinge, and then we're going to go ahead and grab the brackets and everything that we might need to get this put in. Takes more time, but we want to do it right the first time. so now we're going to go ahead and lay the carpet down. And in order for us to do this, we're gonna glue it back down in place. We've got our hinge, so that's a good thing. We're gonna use this Loctite spray adhesive. This is a high strength spray adhesive, and it also shoots out in like a spider web. You don't want to get the kind that shoots out in like a mist. You want to get the kind that shoots out in chunky little spider webs. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot it on this piece and. And we're going to shoot it on the carpet itself. So, and we're going to let it get tactile first. So you don't want to put it on immediately. You want to let it get the oxygen to the glue first, and then we will lay the carpet on, press it in place, and we should be fine. So we're going to spray this, wait a couple of minutes, then lay the carpet
Make
down.
sure we line it up right.
Yeah, we have to line it up first. Yeah. So. We're just going to let that chill for just a minute, and then we're going to lay it down. Basically, you got to let the oxygen kind of get to the glue so it gets a little sticky first. I'll put a little bit more on here. See how I get that nice stringiness? That's what we want. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you get it on the hinge or not. Actually, it's better if you do. I just realized we didn't have a good angle on that when we were putting the carpet down, but essentially we lined up with the marker point that we made on the back end, lined it all up, and then our hinge works. So then once this is dry, we're gonna flip it around, and we're gonna put the foam material back on the bottom side. So now that this is stuck in place, we've got our carpet on both sides and the foam material. We're going to go ahead and put the carpet back in the, we got to do the side carpet pieces in the trunk that goes in place. And this is the last piece that goes inside. And the trunk is finished for the most part. Still got to do a little bit of work, but it'll do. Alright, so we've got the side pieces done. You know, all the carpet's in, and we got the spare tire in. Just make sure it fits, and now we're going to go ahead and put the carpet in.